David at Ziklag, a story of resilience and redemption. Welcome back to Bible Stories That Inspire. Today we step into a moment of chaos, courage, and comeback. Picture this: a city in flames, families torn apart, and a leader on the edge of despair. This is the story of David at Ziklag, a tale that reminds us even in our darkest hours, hope can rise from the ashes. David wasn't yet king. He was a fugitive, a warrior with a band of 600 loyal men, living in Ziklag, a dusty outpost in Philistine territory. They'd been on the run from King Saul, finding refuge among enemies. But one day, everything changed. After a long march back from a failed alliance with the Philistines, David and his men crested a hill and froze. Smoke curled into the sky. Ziklag, their home, was a smoldering ruin. The Amalekites had struck, raiding, burning, and taking their wives, their children, everything they held dear. Imagine the scene: hardened warriors dropping to their knees, tears cutting through the dirt on their faces. The Bible says they wept until they had no strength left. Even David, the man who'd slain Goliath, was crushed. His two wives, Ahinoam and Abigail, were gone. And worse, his men turned on him. Grief twisted into anger, and they spoke of stoning him. David stood alone, surrounded by loss and betrayal. Ever been there? When life hits so hard you can't see a way out. But here's where the story shifts. David didn't collapse under the weight. The Bible tells us he encouraged himself in the Lord his God. Picture him stepping away from the chaos, maybe kneeling by a charred wall, whispering a prayer. He sought God's voice through the priest Abiathar and the ephod, a sacred tool for guidance. "Should I pursue these raiders?" he asked. And God answered, clear as day. "Go, you'll recover everything." That moment changed everything. With renewed fire in his chest, David rallied his men. 400 charged with him into the wilderness. 200 stayed behind, too exhausted to fight. They tracked the Amalekites relentlessly, through rocky ravines and scorching sun, until a clue emerged: an Egyptian slave, abandoned by his masters, half dead in the sand. David fed him, revived him, and learned the raiders' location. The trail was hot now. Swords sharpened, hearts pounding, they pressed on. At dusk, they found the enemy, feasting, drunk on their plunder, unaware of the storm coming. David struck. The battle raged from twilight to the next evening, a whirlwind of steel and grit. When the dust settled, the Amalekites were crushed. Every wife, every child, every stolen treasure recovered. Not a single thing was lost. David returned to Ziklag not just a survivor, but a conqueror. Back at camp, David showed his heart. Some of his men grumbled, wanting to hoard the spoils for the fighters alone. But David refused. "No," he said, "the Lord gave us this victory. Everyone shares, those who fought and those who stayed." He sent gifts to the elders of Judah too, rebuilding bonds. From the ashes of Ziklag, David emerged stronger, ready for the crown that awaited him. So what can we carry from David's Ziklag into our own lives? Let's sit with this for a moment. First, when everything's stripped away, you've still got a source of strength. David's world was ashes, his home, his family, his men's trust, gone. But he turned to God, not his own crumbling resolve. Maybe you're there right now. Job lost, dreams torched, people turning their backs. You're not empty-handed. There's a quiet strength waiting if you reach for it, a whisper saying, "This isn't the end." Second, despair's loud, but it doesn't get the last word. David wept until he couldn't anymore, and who could blame him? Loss cuts deep, but he didn't stay down. He asked, "What's next?" and chased it. If you're stuck in your own Ziklag, maybe a diagnosis, a betrayal, a failure that haunts you, hear this: the story's still unfolding. One step, one prayer can shift the ground beneath you. Hope doesn't erase the pain, it builds a bridge over it. Third, your comeback can lift more than just you. David didn't hoard the victory, he shared it with the weary who couldn't fight, with the communities he left behind. Imagine that. Out of your mess, you could pull someone else up. That dead-end job, it might teach you grit to help a friend later. That broken heart, it could make you the one who listens when no one else does. Your Ziklag isn't just survival, it's a seed for something bigger. And here's the spark to hold on to. What's lost can be recovered. David got it all back. Every child, every treasure. Now, life doesn't always tie up that neatly, but Ziklag says this: the enemy doesn't win forever. What's been stolen, your peace, your confidence, your joy, there's a path to reclaim it. Maybe not overnight, maybe not the same way, but step by step, with faith as your compass. You're tougher than the smoke around you, and the light's still ahead. Thanks for joining us on Bible Stories That Inspire. If this story lit a spark in you, drop a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to be encouraged. Next time, we'll dive into another tale of hope and grit. Until then, hold on to this. The Lord turns ashes into strength and despair into deliverance. Keep chasing the light, even through the smoke.